This is the story of a 35-year-old Peter Parker who is married, has 2 children, is happy. This is the new Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm Will, and for me, this is the best Spider-Man story in recent years. If you doubt it, stay until the end of the video. You won't regret it. If you want to know more about this new Ultimate Universe, check out this playlist that I'll leave here in the cards and in the pinned comment. Don't forget to leave your like to help the channel. If you're not subscribed yet, subscribe so you don't miss anything about this Spider-Man. And without further ado, let's get to the story. The story begins showing the city of New York snowing in January. Inside his apartment, a full-bearded Peter Parker, already an adult, wakes up, looks at himself in the mirror, and recognizes that he is no longer young. He doesn't look very happy, because actually something bothers him, and you'll soon know what it is. As he gets ready, he looks at the photos of his family, puts on his wedding ring, and leaves his room to meet his children who are having coffee. Yes, Peter Parker has 2 children here, Richard Parker, the oldest, in honor of his father, and a little and beautiful girl named May, in honor of his aunt. You can see that Peter has a great relationship with the 2, and his coffee is also ready because he has a great wife for whom he thanks every day. And of course, we're talking about Mary Jane, Peter's love of life, who is also present. After hugging, they talk a little about what took Peter's sleep last night. The detail is that at that moment, little May takes a type of crystal ball from her father's bag. And keep this object in mind because it is super important at the end of the story. Then Peter takes the crystal ball from his daughter's hands, says goodbye to his family and heads to the clarinet. And, well, as soon as he arrives and greets his colleagues, out of nowhere he hears someone screaming for Parker's name. That is, the clarinet is basically the same thing we know, except for a small detail. Jonah Jameson, of course, is the one screaming for Parker's name, but he sees Peter, greets him briefly, and keeps screaming for Parker's name. In other words, he's calling for another Parker. Yeah, there's another office here that's run by the editor-in-chief, and this guy is Ben Parker, the famous Uncle Ben, who never died in this reality. And apparently, Jameson and Ben have been working together for a long time, so they have a very funny relationship. Like, in this scream of Jameson, Ben only replies that his ears are still working well, and Jameson retorts that he only screamed because Ben didn't answer. Then, Peter enters the office asking if his uncle is ready. Ben replies that he's been ready for 15 minutes, and when he asks why Peter is late, Peter replies that it's because he didn't get there on time. That's the kind of joke Spider-Man would make. Another really cool scene here is that before leaving, Jameson realizes that Peter forgot to put on a tie. Actually, Peter doesn't even have one. So Jameson takes off his own tie, and as he ties it to Peter, they talk about how Ben must be feeling because of today. Jameson himself says that Ben is the toughest guy he's ever met, but he's still worried. He tells Peter to keep an eye on his uncle and reminds him that he will still want his tie back. After that, we see Peter and Ben in the middle of a crowd heading somewhere. Peter takes the opportunity to ask how his uncle is, because he never talks about what happened. He doesn't say a word about how he's feeling. In response, Ben replies that Peter lost his parents when he was only 15 years old. Today, it's been 20 years since that terrible incident, but he's sure that Peter still feels the pain of that loss. And as soon as Peter agrees with that, Ben says that that's exactly how he feels. In other words, here's another big difference in relation to the main universe. In addition to Uncle Ben being alive, unfortunately, Aunt May is dead. But she didn't die because of a robber that Peter allowed him to run past. None of that. She was one of the many victims of a terrorist attack in the city that is believed to be Tony Stark's work. But those who followed the saga Invasion Ultimate here on the channel know that these attacks were orchestrated by a small secret group that was manipulating the world. I recommend that you watch the playlist for you to understand how this new Ultimate Universe was created. Well, since the incident that killed many innocent people once a year, friends and family gather to remember and mourn the loss of these people. In fact, in the memorial, we see the name not only of May, but also of Norma Osborn, who also died that day. Another detail is that Matt Murdock apparently never became the Demolisher. He is a priest who even gives a speech explaining everything that happened and trying to console the families. Then he calls another person to speak, and that person is Harry Osborn. The struggler who lost his parents in the incident even starts off well by saying beautiful things and such, but then he adopts another posture. He says that remembering those who left is not enough, almost as if saying that they need to do something else. He is clearly angry, a deep anger that will soon be manifested. After the memorial, Ben greets Harry, and here we find out that Peter and Harry were never friends. Mary Jane herself says that she only met him once, but he was very different from what he seems to be now. Then Peter says goodbye to his family once again, and returns to work. As soon as Peter and Ben arrive at the Clarinet, they observe a meeting where Jameson is completely angry, throwing some papers, and as if that were not enough, he simply leaves the room saying that he is out, as if he were resigning. When he passes by Ben, he doesn't say anything, just looks at him, and Ben apparently already understands everything. Then he enters the meeting room and asks what he missed. Robbie Robertson explains that the newspaper will need to go through some changes. These changes that Jameson did not agree with, which is why he left. It seems that the announcers did not like how the clarinetist is covering Stark's terrorist attack, so they are threatening to withdraw, which may result in the closure of the newspaper. This is where we see the man on the other side of the table who came with this information about the announcers, and he could not be other than Wilson Fisk, also known as the King of Crime. The villain says that Ben should be satisfied with his good luck, because with Jameson leaving, he will be the leader of the whole newspaper. So much so that Fisk congratulates him on his promotion. However, Ben's answer was not what everyone expected. He just smiles and leaves the room quietly. He sees Jameson in the elevator taking his things away, so he takes the same elevator and asks Jameson what the two of them are going to do now, indicating that he has also resigned. A little later, at dusk, Wilson Fisk left his vehicle until he was suddenly attacked. Fisk managed to get out a few seconds before his car exploded. The detail is that the one who carried out the attack was the Green Dwarf, who has a type of armor, a glider, and since Norman is dead, it is kind of obvious that it is Harry. Then we jump to a bar without a name, where Ben and Jameson are drinking and thinking about what to do. Jameson doesn't really like the idea of them creating their own newspaper, but Ben remembers that they don't know how to do anything else. Then Peter appears and says that he found out that the two of them left the newspaper. As soon as Jameson leaves, Peter has a more serious conversation with his uncle. Peter wants to know how Ben ended his life in one afternoon, in which Ben replies that since his wife died, he is a lonely man in the world. He can very well start his life as many times as he wants now, and it was not difficult to choose that, because he didn't want to work for a newspaper that publishes news in a way that he doesn't agree with. He's just doing what he thinks is right, as he always did, but he realizes that there's something wrong with Peter. And really, at that moment, Peter starts to vent what he's feeling. He has a great life, an excellent wife. He has his family, his children, his responsibilities at work. He wants his life to change, but he can't give up on those things. His uncle even thinks that he and Mary Jane are in crisis, but Peter admits that they are a great duo, and sometimes he thinks that MJ deserves someone better than him. But he doesn't know how to explain it. He just feels that there's something wrong with him, as if something was missing in his life. He even says that he's living a life that wasn't meant for him to live. Hearing this, Ben doesn't understand very well. He just says that if Peter wants something to happen in his life, then he shouldn't just wait. He should make it happen. Withdrawing, Ben says he loves him. But if Peter is walking half asleep, anesthetized by his own life, then it's time to wake up. That same night, Peter puts his children to sleep. He says goodbye to May with a kiss on the forehead, and Richard asks to finish reading another chapter of a book he's reading, in which Peter agrees and also says goodbye to his son. After that, Peter greets his wife, who starts asking what's going on in his mind. Peter reveals that he still feels that something is missing and that he needs a change. MJ believes it has something to do with work, but Peter says it's another kind of change. Mary Jane understands what he means. She even says that Peter doesn't seem satisfied with who he is now, but she still asks if this change he will make will change anything between the two, in which Peter replies that their love will never change. Happy with this answer, Mary Jane kisses him on the forehead, saying that he should go ahead and do what he needs to do. And really, as soon as MJ goes to bed, Peter goes to his bag, grabs that crystal ball, and heads to the outside of his apartment. At this point, we have a flashback of what happened the night before, and this is where we understand why Peter spent that day so down. Well, there he was writing on his notebook, when suddenly a mysterious package simply appeared in his apartment. From that package, a holographic message sent by Tony Stark appears. In the message, Tony first identifies himself, believing that Peter never heard of him. But as we saw before in the memorial, Tony is being accused of being responsible for a terrorist attack that took many lives, so everyone knows who he is. Then, Tony reveals that he is sending this message from 6 months in the future. He explains that there was an attack on his life, and that of his companions, and they only had seconds to escape before the orbital platform exploded. Tony says he can't be more specific than he is going to be now, so he asks Peter to pay close attention. Within this technological sphere, there is a bioorganic catalyst necessary for him to go through a transformation that will change his life. 20 years ago, Peter should have been bitten by a radioactive spider, which would have given him incredible powers, and with them, Peter would have become one of the main superheroes on Earth. But instead, a great evil traveled through time and erased almost all the heroes of existence. He did this to create a society that could be perfectly managed and controlled by him. Now, Tony is trying to bring all these heroes back, and in 6 months, if he has done everything correctly, he will leave where he is and find a free land that has recovered his heroes. Finally, he says that Peter should have a different life. Peter Parker should protect the innocent, save lives, and inspire people to be better. But instead, all these things were taken from him. In the present, Peter remembers these words of Stark, that people stole his future, stole his destiny. The question is, does Peter want it back? As he opens the sphere, he finds a small container containing a spider inside it. As he releases the little spider, he remembers his uncle's phrase telling him to wake up. He remembers his wife telling him to go ahead in what he needs to do. The spider finally bites his hand, and it is at this moment that he officially becomes the ultimate Spider-Man. Maybe you're wondering how Peter already got a suit. And well, it turns out that Stark also gave him this suit in that package he sent, a stealth suit that would protect his identity. And the moment Peter put on this suit, he decided to become the hero he should be. So, that's it, guys. A story that when I finished was with a big smile on my face, and I hope you also felt that same emotion. Now leave in the comments what you think of this story, of this beginning. Don't forget to leave your like To help the channel, share the video. Follow us on Instagram to stay up to date with the news. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe, activate the bell to receive notifications of new videos, and see you next time.